It's been said. All right. I'm going to call the business session of the Board of Education to order at 5:32 p.m. Consider approval of the agenda.
So moved.
The motion has been made.
Second.
Carrie seconds the agenda. Roll call for approval. Ben?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Leo? Yes. Kathy?
Yes.
All in favor of the approval of the agenda. President's report. Mr. Davin is obviously not here tonight. Once again, Amazon takes priority. Ben and Carrie are with us virtually this evening, and Kathy and I are present in person. Item B under President's report is the reading of the National School Lunch Week Proclamation. State of Wisconsin, Department of Public Instruction. Whereas the National School Lunch Program has served our nation admirably for 75 years through advanced practices in nutrition education, and whereas more than 2,400 public and private schools in Wisconsin are providing meals at no cost to students or their families under the National School Lunch Program's seamless summer option during the 21-22 school year, and whereas there is evidence of continued need for nutrition education and awareness of the value of school nutrition programs, and whereas the success of this effort is due largely to resourceful and creative local food service administrators, managers, and staff working in cooperation with parents, teachers, community groups, government personnel, and students. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Dr. Jill Underly, State Superintendent of Public Instruction, declare October 11th through 15th, 2021, National School Lunch Week, a time to celebrate the importance of a program helping to keep students nourished so they can learn. National School Lunch Week, Wild About School Lunch, October 11th through 15th. Dr. Jill K. Underly, State Superintendent of Public Instruction. I would further note for the record that our lunch staff has performed above and beyond the call. There are profound shortages of a wide variety of different food commodities. They've had to make substitutions. They've had to be creative. They have had to go scavenge. Their jobs over the past 18 months have been extraordinarily complicated, along with everybody else's. And this would be a perfect opportunity to recognize their admirable efforts above and beyond to do what they can possibly do to provide our children with a nutritious meal. So thank you to them. 5C, our next board meeting. Our annual meeting will be on Monday, the 25th of October at 6 o'clock.
Yep, that will start the budget hearing.
And that will be at what location?
Probably right here.
Probably here. Our November meeting is tentatively scheduled for Wednesday the 10th. Given that President Davin is having great difficulty making Wednesday meetings, there might be the possibility of looking at a different time or date for that, but for the moment we'll list it as November 10th and certainly advise everybody if there's going to be a change. Item 6, administrative reports. Report on elementary and secondary school emergency relief free fund, ESSER 3, Mr. Cronin.
Thank you. Tonight, I'm going to ask for a preliminary approval of the ESSER 3 budget so that we can begin the steps of building the overall budget and potentially start the recruiting process to fill some of those areas that are going to come out of that budget. So the ESSER 3 stands for the Elementary and Secondary School Relief Fund. This is part of the American Rescue Plan that was passed this past spring by the Congress. This is federal dollars. As such, our district in ESSER 3 is eligible for approximately $565,393 in federal funding. These are one-time funds, but they're able to be expended across the 21-22, 22-23, and 23-24 school years. At a minimum, 20% of the allocation must be spent for the express purpose of addressing learning loss through interventions. These interventions are evidence-based interventions and must respond to a student's academic, social, or emotional needs and address the disproportionate impact of COVID-19 on low-income families, students of color, English language learners, students with disabilities, students experiencing homelessness, children and youth in foster care, and migratory students as well. We just need to make sure that we have reached those populations if necessary. For our allotment, that 20% is approximately $113,000. This past year, we are finishing, in fact, part of this year, we are finishing out our Sr2 allocation. This was the original, this was the second federal funding for the Port Edward School District. This was available to us at the beginning of last school year, and it will continue through this school year and next school year if we so deem it or haven't spent it. That was approximately $250,000. We spent just over half of that last year addressing some HVAC upgrades to continue to try to bring fresh air in and out of the buildings, fresh air in, obviously, and the bad air out. Cleaning supplies, nursing services, one-to-one technology for students, mitigation supplies such as hand sanitizer and masks, additional time for cleaning staff. So that was last year. And when you start to add that list up, that money was spent fairly quickly. Nursing services alone is a fairly large expenditure when you're trying to have a certified nurse. And we are only doing that part-time. So it's still not an inexpensive program. This year, we've allocated the final portion of that fund to, again, continue to cover nursing services. We're also working on a program with the Boys and Girls Club. It was originally a grant-driven program done in several districts in Wisconsin. It's to specifically address 7th, 8th, and 9th grade students in need, and that help going into high school. And it is a program entitled Be Great Graduate. And that's, again, a partnership program with the Boys and Girls Club. And that has got they've been building the evidence base on that, and it's had great results. And our local Boys and Girls Club has that program in place already in one of our neighboring districts. So for Sr2, that's where we're looking. But tonight, specifically with Sr3, what can we use these funds for? And again, 20% has to go to learning loss at a minimum. Other items, again, that preparedness and response to COVID-19. This could be the nursing services, cleaning supplies, facility renovations, testing supplies, those kinds of things. Addressing long-term school closure. This would be the idea, and again, we haven't really dealt with that in over a year, or in about a year, when we did a 2-week closure. But prior to that, the closure in the spring of 2020. It could be used for educational technology, and we have done some of that, and you'll see in the budget that we're going to propose preliminarily tonight. There is still some of that included, so that as older items begin to age and age out, we can remove those and bring in newer one-to-one items, newer Chromebooks and things. Outreach and service delivery to special populations. Again, this might be low-income students, English learners, racial and ethnic minorities, students experiencing homelessness. After-school programming and summer learning, that can also be included in Sr3. Mental health supports can be included in Sr3. The proposal I'm making tonight is for the budget so that it does stretch over the 3-year period. And that for the remainder of this fiscal year, I'm proposing that the board allocate the funds to hire an additional interventionist. Right now, we have a fairly large need for interventions, at the elementary school and middle level. We have one title interventionist. That is typically what we've had. But I can tell you that moving forward, based on test scores and some of those diagnostic pieces, that person's particular caseload would be about triple what it is now, and they are just not able to handle. One person isn't. We're talking 20 additional students potentially in math, and that's just K-5. That's not even addressing middle school yet, and another additional 18 students in reading, based already on top of the students the person's already servicing. So, so we're looking at bringing in an interventionist to continue and to help and assist with the reading and math interventions at the elementary and middle levels. This year, by January, is what we'd like to press for on that. That gives us some time to final approval this and some other outreach that we need to do in other pieces. We also are proposing that $7,000 this particular fiscal year cover continued nursing needs, and that again we spend about an additional $50,000 to $60,000 in continuing to upgrade an HVAC system that is quite aged in places. We've been working on that about as quickly as we can, and doing some upgrades. Due to the time frame of 3 months in the summer, you can't get everything done, and then finding parts and pieces has been a challenge too. We had a couple of HVAC upgrades in the works, started already last March, that we just in the last 2 weeks received the parts for it. So in 2022, we're proposing that out of ESSER 3, that ESSER 3 picks up Be Great Graduate and the funding and the work with the Boys and Girls Club for that particular program with 7th, 8th, and 9th grade students, and that we further continue with the interventionist position in the next school year, potentially through some reallocation of staffing within the buildings. We may be able to be in a position where we have room for an additional half-time interventionist. And in the final year, again, we would continue those positions. Now, any positions we bring on board, these are grant funded, and with anything grant funded positions, the good thing is we can hire those. The bad thing is when the grant funding runs out, we don't necessarily have a replacement for that. Our hope would be that we would stabilize and begin to get back to a point where one interventionist would be appropriate, as it had been prior to COVID and the shutdown in 2020. So that is the basics. Again, each year we do have an allocation for HVAC. We also have an allocation each year for nursing needs and technology needs, along with those intervention needs and those that to address the learning loss. At the end of the day, we're proposing about 53% of this budget be dedicated to the learning loss side, and the remainder addressing some of those ongoing needs, whether it be the nursing services, the additional cleaning and mitigation supplies, and some of the upgrades to the ventilation systems. So that is the bulk of my report on that.
Okay. Any questions or comments for Mr. Cronin regarding that? Ben, Karen?
No.
Okay.
No.
Oh, very good. 6B, report on BEST screener. Is Donna?
No, I don't know. There's no motion on that. That was just my report.
Do we want to just?
Unfortunately, Ms. Schroeder is unable to be with us tonight. She very much wanted to be here, and she just unfortunately. So I send my regards from her to the board and her apologies for not being able to be here this evening.
We'll just postpone that until a later time?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's flip the page. there anybody who wants to address the board tonight? No one has indicated that.
We looked at it, kind of regarding the ESSER budget and the HVAC upgrades. I had heard that there was some fairly expensive HVAC component that would significantly reduce the spread of COVID in schools for like 30, I mean, it was pretty expensive. Is that true? Is that?
Well, just very briefly, the last year we installed an ionization system on each of the univents, and that was, at the time, that was about a $50,000 to $60,000 upgrade, and that gets attached to each individual air handling unit and each univent. So it the other pieces, and we did that in both buildings. The other pieces are more efficiency and of the air handling itself. We're dealing with systems that, in some cases, have been upgraded in 60 years. So it was a matter of just trying to do that. So,
Is there such a device or component that exists that?
well, that would be that ionization system.
That's what it is.
Yeah, and I can get you the exact name of that later.
No, that's fine, but that, we
Yeah,
got
it supposedly reduces that. Yeah.
Okay. There are no people signed up who wish to address, so I guess we can move on from that. Go to the consent agenda. Consider approval of the minutes of the past meeting of September 8th.
So moved.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Ben seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call on the approval of the September 8th minutes. Ben?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Leo? Yes. Kathy?
Yes.
All in favor? Minutes of the September 8th meeting are approved. The consent agenda financials. Is there anything that we need to deal with in terms of gift approvals?
Just with one donation to report from a Susan Milkowski from Wisconsin Rapids, donated school supplies to the elementary school again.
Okay. And this is for her.
Yes.
Okay, very good. All right, I'll consider a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Kathy,
Second it.
second by Carrie. Any discussion? All those in favor, roll call. Ben,
Yes.
Carrie,
Yes.
Leo, yes. Kathy?
Yes.
The consent agenda is approved. There is no unfinished business. Under new business, consider approval of a second advisor for the drama program. Rachel Gazelle.
Yeah, normally Ms. Schroeder would put that forward to, she's not here tonight, but Ms. Frizzell has expressed interest to be the second advisor, and we typically have 2 advisors for that program. We're talking sometimes 30 kids in the program, so.
Okay. A motion to approve the second drama advisor.
So moved.
So move.
Motion by Carrie. Ben, can we use you as a second?
Yep, second.
Motion by Ben, motion by Carrie, second by Ben to approve Ms. Frizzell as the second drama advisor. Any discussion? All those in favor? Ben?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Leo? Yes. Unanimous approval for that item. Number 12, consider approval of sophomore class advisor, Tammy Griffith.
And again, Ms. Schroeder expresses her apologies for not being here, and she would put that forward to you, but Tammy has served in multiple roles over the years as an advisor for different groups, and is more than qualified.
Okay. I consider a motion for the approval of Tammy Griffith as sophomore class advisor.
So moved.
Motion by Kathy,
Second by Ben.
second by Ben. Any discussion? All in favor, roll call. Kathy?
Yes.
Leo? Yes. Carrie?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Tammy is approved as sophomore class advisor. Item 13, consider approval of Start College Now applications.
So you had in your board packet applications from, what was it, 8, I believe, students? And who are applying for the Start College Now program through Mid-State Technical College. This allows these students to get dual credit courses. Courses that would not be approved are courses that we offer in-house here, would not be approved. Those courses are taken out of consideration, but your approval is needed to forward these on and get them started in the application process at Mid-State for this.
Have we seen any significant difference this year as opposed to last? Because now we have more people on staff who are dual certified DPAE, DPI?
Yeah, that's a start. We're starting to see that. Not all of the courses are implemented yet this year due to some of the coursework those instructors need to complete. But we've already started with some of the coursework, and so we will see some of that. 8 is certainly less than we had last year. So, but it's still a fairly significant group, and they're still going to be able to get some good credits here.
That's a cost saving for the school district, and it's an opportunity for the kids to not have to travel.
Yep, and depending on the courses they take, quite a few, maybe not quite all, but quite a few are transferable to the UW. So
It's an awesome program, and I'm glad that they take advantage of it.
I would consider a motion for approval of the noted applications.
So moved.
So moved.
Motion by Carrie,
Second by Ben.
second by Ben. Any discussion? Roll call. Kathy?
Yes.
Leo? Yes. Carrie?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
All in favor? Item 14, consider approval of early graduation for these two listed students.
yes, both these seniors have applied for early graduation status, and we're going to forward these with our recommendation for your approval.
So moved.
Motion by Kathy,
Second by Ben.
second by Ben to grant early graduation status to these two students. Any further discussion?
Both, I mean, you've seen their letters and their, yeah, so.
Well versed, fine young folk. Not hearing any further discussion. Roll call, all in favor? Kathy?
Yes.
Leo? Yes. Ben?
Yes.
And Carrie?
Yes.
All in favor of the approval of the two candidates for early graduation. Item 15, receive the 2021 seclusion and restraint report.
Miss Christie puts together that report. I can tell you that we had 0 instances of either seclusion or restraint during the 2020-2021 school year. There's some very specific pieces that she has to put together for that, and that gets reported to the state. There were no instances. And we're working on training staff up again on more staff. We have quite a few staff already trained in some of the de-escalation pieces and other things that go along with what's all involved with seclusion and restraint. But that's a good thing that we didn't have to do at all. And again, Miss Christie tonight, unfortunately, she is at a principal's meeting. So.
And there's no action necessary there.
No action necessary on that. That's just, that is transmitted to you.
Note to report. Item 16, consider approval of cooperative education agreements 66.03.01 with the Nakusa School District.
We do these cooperative agreements with other governmental entities, primarily in our case, school districts. The purpose of these is to contract. We're basically entering into a contract for services. We do this occasionally because there are some special education services due to the size of our district that it is extraordinarily difficult for a district our size to have the right qualified person or whatnot. This is a special education cooperative agreement, and we ask your approval of that.
So moved.
Motion by Kathy,
Second.
second by Ben. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call. Kathy?
Yes.
Leo? Yes. Carrie?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
All in favor, motion is passed. Item 17, consider approval of the preliminary ESSER3 budget as was previously presented.
So I had, in my report, I talked to you about the ESSER3 budget a bit, and just to fill in a couple of items, this is a preliminary approval, it is not a final approval, but it does allow us to know the intent moving forward. We will need to come back and do a final approval. There are a couple of reasons it's not final. One is, while we know the dollar amounts and we know the boxes we need to check with the state of Wisconsin, we actually don't have those boxes available to us to check quite yet. The state is still waiting on its final approval. So we won't expend any money out of this until we've been able to get that piece and get it finalized. The budget we're proposing works to address some of the learning loss, a lot of the learning loss, as much of the learning loss as we think we can and need to. It continues to address some further updates on efficiencies in some of the physical plant with the HVAC. It sets aside money in 22, 23, 23, 24 for technology updates, for offsite service if we need to do that for one-to-one, and supplies related to COVID, cleaning and mitigation. And then finally, the continued nursing needs. Again, it doesn't set aside vast amounts of money in those areas, but it will likely be an offset for us to at least offset those additional costs. You know, going last year from one-to-one technology pre-COVID was a high school concept. Now it goes all the way down into the elementary school. And that's a positive, but there's also some expense that certainly goes with that. So, and so this budget carries each of the next three, well, this year and then the two following years, and tries to spread that out over the course of the time that we can spend it. So we can try to leverage some of it each of the next couple of years.
A motion for preliminary approval.
So moved.
Motion by Kathy,
Second.
second by Carrie. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call. Kathy?
Yes.
Leo? Yes. Carrie?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
All in favor, the preliminary ESSER budget is approved. Number 18, designate state education convention board delegate. Oh, my.
Well, I think we should push that because I know John typically likes to be that delegate. And obviously without, I mean, I hate to appoint him without him here.
Correct.
He might change his mind and not want to do it again, but he has done it for the last, what, 5 or 6 years, I think.
Previous to that, I was the lucky soul who got to do that. So
When does that
I will be
happen?
glad to defer to Mr. Davin if he really wants to go. It's fine. I will bear up somehow.
If you want to table that item,
You want to table it? I mean, we don't need to tell them right away, do we?
No.
Okay,
you don't have to take action on
so then let's see if we can talk to John and see if he really wants to do it, or if we have to send somebody else. 19, opportunity for individual board comment. Kathy?
I would just like to thank all of the staff. I know, again, it's not been a great start to the school year. I just give you a lot of credit for sticking with it every day, because I know it's tough. And thank you to those of you that are here. We really appreciate you.
Ditto, amen. Whatever other accolades can be presented are inadequate. Gary?
I'll make it really short, but yeah, Kathy pretty much hit it nail on the head. A big thanks to all the staff for the last few weeks that they had to go through and performed as best as a group could perform. So just a big thank you.
Ben?
Same to Kathy and Leo and Carrie. Thanks to the staff. Big time, the cleaning staff, all the way administration, everybody. And get out. There's a couple more volleyball game next week at home and one more football game to be announced. And that's the closure of the fall sports. So congratulations to all the kids that participated in that also. That's all I have.
Okay. Item 20, establish future board meetings. As previously noted, our budget hearing and annual meeting is Monday, October 25th, starting at 6 o'clock here in the Dorothy Alexander Auditorium. And our November regular meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, November 10th, with an executive session at 5 if necessary and a business meeting following. Do we want to look at December, or should we wait until John is back?
You could put that on that Monday, so you have the executive, or you have the annual meeting, and after the annual meeting, there's the board has a special session that night that you end up passing you have to do the final tax rate approval.
Tax rate approval
In the budget, and you can just add that on at that time.
Okay. When will
Would that be also where we might consider the date change for the November meeting then
And
too?
that's why if for some reason Mr. Dobbin needs to have a change there, that would probably be the time.
Yeah, we really should do that when he's able to provide input in terms of what his schedule looks like.
Right. Just
Yeah.
probably, yeah.
I'm guessing that with Wednesday being Amazon Day at the post office between now and Christmas, it's gonna pretty much be a train wreck every week, so, I'm guessing Wednesdays may not be the best possible day to do this for him, but we'll leave that. We'll get input from him and see what he wants to do. If there are no further dates to be established, I'll call for adjournment.
So moved.
Motion?
Second.
Motion in a second. Is there anybody who is opposed? We'll consider that unanimous. We are adjourned at 6:06 PM.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. Ben, Carrie, thanks for your willingness to respond virtually. Made it possible for us to do this tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody have a great night.
Yes, sir. Stay safe.